guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over a story titled, My Parents Raising Me to Be a Strong Independent Woman is Backfiring. And guys, this story is about a gal. Sounds like she's in her early 20s. Maybe she just finished college and she's potentially on to medical school or something along those lines. And long story short, she's been raised by a pair of feminists. And it sounds like people in her friend group and friends of the family, they're all a bunch of freaking, obviously, far left-wing feminists, I'm going to say it. And they want her to go down the path, the lifestyle where she's a career woman and she makes a ton of money and has all the success and all these degrees. And if she ends up with a guy, I kid you not, in her words here, he's going to be her little bitch, where he'll be the stay-at-home dad and she runs the show and she dominates the relationship. That is how they've raised their daughter. Unfortunately for them, she does not want to live that lifestyle. She recognizes, number one, that's not for her. Number two, she doesn't want to be like one of these women out there that get to their 40s and they've been focusing on career and they have no man, no husband, no kids and all that, and they're alone, the type of gals that you see more and more of today. And so essentially she's rebelling against her family, which is awesome. And that'd be a good one to cover here, because whenever I hear anybody rebelling against the feminist movement, I want to give them a high five and give a shout out to them. And I'm hoping that we'll see more of this in the future, because when you see more and more gals out there that did what this BS tells them to do, or what's interpreted as that message is telling them to do, and down the road they're in the situation where they got no man and it's just them and their dog or their cats and their box of wine, and they're unhappy, they'll start talking more about the mistakes they made. I've done some videos on people like this. I did once a woman in her 70s saying the whole bowel movement, as I call it, is BS. Other women that got to their 40s, they missed out because their mother was pushing them to be like this. And so I'm hoping this is more and more. So I'm going to go through this thing. It's a quick one, but it's a good story to cover here to see that there's potential hope. And I like anybody that's rebelling against the bowel movement. So it starts off, she says, for context, my parents have been pushing me into STEM since I could talk. Told me I need to wait until after I'm graduated to find a man, and when I do, I essentially need to find one that will be my little bitch and do whatever I want him to do. Specifically to be a stay-at-home dad, on demand, and everything along those lines. And I need to be the breadwinner of the relationship, making a lot, she wrote that in giant letters, a lot of money too, of course. They basically told me to fuck traditional gender roles, and I had to be the traditional dominant male figure as a woman. Right there. That's pretty much what's been hammered into her head since childhood. It is a wonder she hasn't gone down that path. But it's the complete opposite. It's kind of like somebody raised in a household that was super, super conservative, and they get to adulthood, and they're like, I don't like this, and they become the exact opposite. Or they're raised in a household super, super left-wing, and they get older and become adults and think for themselves, like, I don't buy into this bullshit, and they go to the other side. But right here, we kind of have something like that. She says, up until recently, I've been going along with it, but now, as a young adult, I realize that none of this is appealing. No shit. I don't want to wait until I'm 40 and financially stable as a health professional to go through geriatric pregnancies and have kids just for my husband to raise them full time. I don't want to be the provider. I don't even like STEM. She says, talking to my partner about our future goals is making me realize that I really need to reconsider everything. She found a good guy and she doesn't buy into this crap. But I gotta say, I'm impressed, because it's very difficult if you just had something just hammered into your head from birth, and your family's one way and all the people they hang out with are a certain way, certain mindset, and you're going against the crowd. Now, I've always gone against the crowd. That's always been me, but it's not easy, particularly if you're someone that, you love your family and you don't want to obviously have a bad relationship with them. So that takes guts, and I admire that. I honestly melted when he said he's trying to graduate early so he can start professional school early, so he can take care of me and we can have kids sooner. And I can be a stay-at-home mom like I want to. If I quit my professional track, I'd still do something relatively lucrative, but not anything that makes as much as a health professional, or racks up that much debt only to work none to barely part-time and not be able to pay it off myself. So her guy wants to finish school early so he can take care of her. And that's going completely against the way she was brought up by her effing family. Yeah, they're gonna welcome him with open arms. If I change career paths, my parents and friends are probably going to call me weak and stupid and dependent on a man, but I honestly don't care. Good for you, girl. And yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I say this all the time, guys. It is better to be alone and have nobody than to have people in your life that try to bring you down, make you feel bad about yourself, aren't supportive of your lifestyle or views. I mean, as long as your lifestyle and views are not being harmful to anybody else or yourself, you get my point there. If they're not on your side, they're not on your team, if you will, then you got to cut them out of your life. Now, for a young gal or young guy who's in his early 20s, that's very difficult, okay, to imagine doing such a thing, because the narrative is family above anything else. Well, when your family or your friends are a bunch of assholes and bring drama and turmoil and all that are toxic, that's a popular word these days, it's not worth having in your life. Now, I'm in my mid-40s, and I've reached a point in my life that I don't tolerate shit from anybody, but it takes people a while to get to that point. It's not worth it. So if they're making her feel, like she says, stupid and weak, just like for you guys that want to go down a certain path, like, I don't know, not get married, not have relationships if you choose so, then you do it. And if people like family don't get your reasons why, and the reasons are quite good, then you have to look at the situation and say, maybe I don't want to have these people in my life anymore. She says, I don't care if I'm falling into my traditional gender role. It's what's best for me, and that's all that matters. Exactly. I just want to have kids early, be able to do what I enjoy as a stay-at-home parent, cooking, art, gardening, and raising animals, and have my supportive partner do what he wants to do, which is take care of me and our future family and just enjoy our life together until we die. In other words, she sounds like a traditional girl. Now, I don't get the vibe like she wants to take advantage of him. No, she just wants to be a traditional stay-at-home mom. Maybe I'll work part-time, make some money here, but I want to take care of the kids, the house, take care of my husband. I mean, her parents, her freaking feminist parents, are probably losing their shit over this, which is hilarious. That being said, I know so many women who are exactly the way my parents try to make me, and they're very happy and successful individuals. But it's just unfortunately not for me. I know I'm going to get so much hate and disapproval from so many friends and family members when they find out that they can all suck a sausage. I just want to be happy. Exactly. They can suck a big sausage. You want to be happy. Good for you. But right here, she just said, I'm going to get so much hate and disapproval. Cut them out of your life. It's not worth it. And by the way, she mentioned that I know plenty of gals that are successful, make a lot of money, and happy, going down the path that her parents wanted to. Newsflash, they ain't so happy. Now, does that mean everyone isn't happy? Sure, but a lot aren't. But they do what the movement tells them they're supposed to do. And then they wake up, maybe they're happy in their 20s. Maybe they're happy in their 30s. But eventually, usually when the 40s come around, and definitely 50s, that's when they start regretting. Because I don't care who it is. Every gal at some point, could take them to their 80 years old, wants a freaking ring on their finger. That some guy loved them enough to commit to them and put that ring on their finger. There's probably some feminists watching this right now. I'm 40 years old. I don't want a ring on my finger. Well, give it time, honey. She says, as a quick edit, this doesn't mean that I wouldn't become fully dependent on my partner forever. I'm still going to have a career. It's just not going to take as long to complete and be more flexible so I can easily start back up when my main job is no longer rearing tiny kids and I want to contribute to our joint income again. Hey, good for her. Once the kids are maybe in school, I can contribute. I like this girl. I hope this isn't bullshit. I'd still maintain all of my autonomy and freedom. We'd be living solely off his income for a while. I talked to my partner a lot about how me being dependent on his income would make me feel weird for obvious reasons. The family brainwashing. And he made it very clear to me that his income would also be mine, and our relationship would stay just as equal as it is now. Just in case anyone thinks I'm throwing my life and my freedom away for some dude, LOL. You're not. Now, I would recommend that guy still has his account, and she has her account. She obviously has some money, and put money in the joint account for expenses and groceries and the kids and all that, but don't have all the money in a joint account that she can have total access to. That's a no-no. I don't care what the situation is. I don't care how cool the girl is. So, yeah, it's good to hear. That's the end of the thing, but I'm going to read a few comments in a second. But so guys, this is an example on the other side, how she wants to go down one path. The narrative, her where she was raised telling her to do this, she wants to do something else. She doesn't buy into this bullshit. And good for her, because we need more of this right now. Because what we have now obviously isn't working too well. And also as an example for you guys, like I said before, a lot of you guys don't want to go down the traditional path of marriage and kids because you see what things are like nowadays. Taking marriage out of the picture, just even relationships, how things are nowadays, what the attitude is out there, the quality of the gals out there. So a lot of guys are just like, that's it, I'm done. I don't want to do relationships, let alone get married. Or maybe you want to do relationships, but you sure as hell aren't getting married because you know the marriage laws, the deck is stacked against the guys. And you're going to get some shit about that. From your family, from your society, depending on your culture, religion. You got to be strong enough to go for what you want and do what's best for you. Because unless you can prove in reincarnation, you got one shot here on this planet, you might as well make yourself happy. Far too many people have lived their lives for other people, miserable. It's not worth it. And again, this is coming from a dude in his mid-40s who's been around the block. So for you young guys out there, understand this. Now, real quick, I'm going to read a few comments here. One guy says here, live your life as you want and not as others expect of you to live it. That way of living leads to frustration, regret, and sadness. Care less what others think of you. Exactly. Another guy says, do what the hell you want. Your parents are fuckfaces trying to vicariously live through you. Well, that's one part of it, but they're also raging feminists, and they think they want their daughter to be like them or how they think things ought to be. And how well has that worked out? Another one says here, and this is from a guy, and she's going to respond to it. He says there, feminism makes women miserable. As a gay male in my 30s, I have literally a dozen female friends who are either in their late 30s or beyond, who are super successful in their careers, but absolutely miserable with their lives. You hear that? The reason they're miserable is because they followed the feminist diktats that they prioritize climbing the corporate ladder over finding a loving husband and having a family. Now they're past the age where men want to start families with them and have nothing to look forward to but work and more work. It makes them bitter and depressed, and I have to hear about it constantly as their friend. All that is to say that OP, have kids and be the stay-at-home mom. Raise your kids exactly the way you want and tell everyone who criticizes you for making those choices to go fuck themselves. There you go. This is what I'm talking about. And she responded saying, I very much appreciate the support. I wish current feminism was less about trying to make women the same as men and follow more masculine lifestyles or careers and more about the actual support of women and whatever lifestyle they choose. Like, imagine that. I shouldn't be ashamed by my feminist friends for wanting to be a stay-at-home mom. Right there. And yet she is. See what the narrative is right now versus what she thinks it ought to be? She's like, honestly about supporting them and all that and equality, not essentially stomping down on men and being better than men and all that. That guy who wrote in about the different girls he's friends with in their 30s or whatever, perfect example. And one more comment here. This guy says, there's nothing wrong with being financially independent and highly accomplished as a woman. However, the conceit of feminism is that women can climb the professional ladder, working 60 hours a week, and still spend 6 hours a day with the kids. Men have been trying to do this for thousands of years and failed. How many dudes have been divorced because they weren't at home enough? This backwards notion has set women up for disappointment, and I fear will be a whole generation before women realize it's not going to work out for them. Trying to fill male roles and female roles simultaneously. Right. And she says, the girl who wrote this, exactly. This is why I'm reconsidering trying to climb that ladder and just be content with a medium salary and flexible job so I can spend time on what's important to me. You really can't have both without serious consequences for one or the other. Correct. That is the narrative that by the feminist movement, that women should be able to go out there, get that job, have that career, make a ton of money more than a guy, and she can come home and be the single mom and raise the kids. When are you going to sleep? You know, seriously. And so many gals go down that path and they're unhappy. And quite frankly, this world's fucked up enough that we don't need enough more unhappy people in it. But I think it's still going to take at least a generation for people to really wake up and realize. But I do my part here. I talk about it and all that. And not to mention the fact that so many guys, given the current environment, how things have been going over the decades, are walking away. So those gals that when they are ready, or the guys that are going to be single, you're like, I'm not getting married. I'm not. You had your chance, honey, 2 decades ago when you were the type that was rejecting me or put me through a whole bunch of BS. Or that attitude of yours that hasn't gone away. Not happening. And they'll start YouTube channels and write blogs and articles, whatever it is, something in the metaverse in 20 years, and complain about it, and the pendulum will start shifting back. But we'll see. I'll be an old man by then, in my 60s. Lord knows, I can't imagine doing YouTube in 20 years or YouTube in the metaverse or something, doing speeches and all you guys can see me in your VR goggles or whatever, or alternate reality goggles or virtual reality, whatever the fuck they are, my point. But if the metaverse becomes a big thing, I will be in the metaverse doing my thing. I probably won't be in a car. I'll be on a podium on a fucking island or something, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, guys, I've rambled enough. So that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And also, guys, if you got a good story or article or personal story you'd like to share, by all means, email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it, and I will if it works for the channel. I get bombarded with emails all the time, and I can only cover so much, so I got to do the best ones. Or I put them aside for later, and I'll cover them down the road. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.